Hey everybody, welcome back to the Junkyard Dog Report. Here talking about the Hornets Cavs game the other night, and there are a lot of things to take away from this game, but I think I'm just gonna start just by going through the game because each quarter was very different than the other, and the team looked a lot different in a lot of ways. So I'm just gonna start off by saying Lamar Stevens started, which is pretty cool because he hasn't had too many chances to start since joining the team as an undrafted free agent a few years ago. And as I've said before, he is the quintessential junkyard dog. So if anyone deserved a chance to start so we could find a way to end the 5-game skid we're on, he was the guy who definitely deserved it, which is cool to see. And also, after that Bucks game, which I'm gonna apologize about now, I didn't make a video for that. I was a little busy during that time, so I didn't have the ability to give the time and effort that you, whoever you are out there, thank you for watching, deserves. So I apologize for not making a video on that, but I also want to bring up the fact that after that game, JB said that we're getting into a little bit of a fat cat mindset after that 8-game winning streak, feeling like we could just show up and win games just because we were there rather than doing the things that got us that 8-game win streak. And we got a little Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde tonight. So let me start with the first quarter, which is definitely a lot of Dr. Jekyll in there. The first quarter was actually really good for us. We won 28-14, and we couldn't miss. You know, I think we were 9 for 9 at the beginning of the game, and then Jarrett missed something near the rim, and DG missed a 3 where we were really zipping the ball around and finding the open guy, making the extra pass. So, that was just remarkable to see. You know, they played Cavs basketball the entire first quarter, and if you look at it, there was a point in the first quarter where the Hornets were up 7-4, which it doesn't sound significant, but when you look at the final score of the quarter being 28-14, if you put those two numbers together, 7-4, 28-14, you could see that they got most of their points in the first few minutes, half of their points in the first few minutes of that quarter, because we went on a 24-7 run to finish it, which was awesome to see. We couldn't miss. And something else I saw in that first quarter was, something that we all know as Cavs fans is DG is great at playing big men. And I don't mean that in the terms of making them look foolish, which he can do, but I mean in terms of he will go to the rim not knowing whether or not he's going to score or pass, because he plays it almost like a quarterback taking what the defense gives him. So he'll go up for a layup, and if you go to block his shot, he'll just pass it because he's so good at it that one of our big men will get an easy dunk. Or if the big man says, no, I'm going to stay home on Jarrett or Ev, he just puts it in nice and easy like he always does. Also, something about the 5-game skid is 5 games, 4 quarters in each game, 20 quarters. 1 out of the 20 quarters before this game did we hold the team under 20 points in a quarter, and we did it in the first quarter of this game, which was great, with the one thing being that LaMelo didn't play. But the thing is, you got to give the Hornets credit, and you have to give Steve Clifford credit, because if you've ever watched a Steve Clifford coach team, whether it was in his first stint with the Hornets or when he was with the Magic, they all play hard. It doesn't matter who's on the team. You can give him a bunch of G League players. They will all play hard. So Steve Clifford's great at getting that out of his guys, which is why this game ended up going the way it did for us last night. Because I felt like we should have put them in the dirt in the second quarter, and we didn't. We didn't even come close to it. They They ran up the score in they ran up the score in the second quarter. They scored 32 total in the quarter. They went on a 9-3 run to start the third quarter. And if you think about that, I mean, I also have here that they went on a 13-7 run in the first 4 minutes of the quarter. They only scored 14 in the first. Like, why are we letting them get to that before even the halfway mark of the second quarter? Why do we take our foot off the gas so quick? Like, we didn't even go into halftime. And you could say, oh, they play tough. Oh, they hang around. Oh, Terry Rozier is underrated. You could say, oh, we have a problem covering big men that can shoot, which is true. We have had a problem with that, especially during the skid. But, I mean, we didn't even we just didn't look like ourselves the entire first half of the quarter. Like, I mean, maybe it's because DG and Don were staggering minutes and they were starting to get used to that. But, I mean, I feel like they're used to both running the show on their own. And you could say maybe it's because Lamar started and they're not used to that. But, I mean, the first quarter was perfect, you know? It's just that this team is very Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, and it flips on a dime in a moment. That all of a sudden, this team is, I don't want to say putrid, because in that second quarter, they did bounce back. They did respond. There's a reason it was 32-30 and not 32-15 like it would have been in one of those other games. Also because LaMelo wasn't playing. But, I mean, it's just like a lot of silly mistakes in this game. Just a lot. And it was very frustrating to watch because it felt that way from the beginning. It felt like we had the game in hand in the first quarter. Then in the second quarter, you allow them to come and respond, and they responded very well. Give credit to them. And our offense just, at times, it just looks out of sorts. I mean, a lot of the problems our team has right now seems like they'll be fixed by the end of the season. It seems like a lot of chemistry things, a lot of, trying to do too much sort of things, thinking too much while playing rather than just going with the flow of the game. But something I wrote down in the third quarter was Jarrett owns the Hornets, keep feeding him. Because, I mean, yes, he had 20 points. The whole Big Four scored over 20, which was great. But I feel like Jarrett Allen specifically owns the Hornets, and I think back a lot to that game last year, the first game he played after not being named to the All-Star game, where he absolutely erupted on them, and DG wasn't playing, and he carried us to that victory. And he posterized Mason multiple times. I mean, the third quarter was different than the second quarter because we came with that intensity right away. I mean, the intensity defensively was there the entire third quarter. The offense continually made mistakes, which was frustrating, but it's not like they were jogging back after a mistake and it was an easy layup or something. No, it was good defense, bad offense. We finished the quarter tied 24-24. I mean, like, if you look at the turnovers in the quarter, well, there was 1:10 left when I wrote this. So maybe more happened or whatever, but with 1:10 left in the third quarter, the Cavs had 5 turnovers and the Hornets had 4. In my opinion, that's ridiculous. They don't have their floor general. Like, they didn't have LaMelo. They had Terry, who's a scoring guard, a great scoring guard, in my opinion. He can get his shots from anywhere. And Theo Maledon, who's a guy that if you ask a casual NBA fan, they don't know who he is. Those were their point guards. We have Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. There's no reason we should be turning over the ball more than them. There's no reason our offense should look out of sorts more than theirs when they don't have LaMelo Ball. But, you do have to give this team credit for playing well defensively, and I think DG definitely was. He did score 40, but he was definitely focusing on that side of the floor with his 5 steals. Seems like he was trying to not make a statement to the team, but kind of like the way Jarrett Allen leads by example. The kind of just showing the team like, look at me, I'm the guy who's supposed to be putting buckets in, and I'm bringing all this intensity defensively, especially for a leader on this team. You know, it's important for other players to see that. And now we go to the fourth quarter, which is just, I mean, this quarter was, it embodies what this team has been over the last 6 games. Like, if you want to know why the Cavaliers have had problems, why the Cavaliers are 1-5 in their last 6 games, I think the fourth quarter is a great representative of why that is. I mean, the Hornets started the fourth on a 17-11 run in the first 6.5 minutes, and we didn't step up defensively. Something I wrote in my notes is we can't play like this if we want to beat Miami. And something else I wrote, which came back to bite me and the Cavs in the ass, was hopefully their ability to finish this game will give them the confidence to finish against better teams. I mean, it's just, I don't even know what to say. It's just, we kept turning the ball over. We went on a nice run at the end of regulation, with like a few minutes left. We went on a nice run to make it a 10-point game. It was 103-93 with 45 seconds left. And then we just kept turning it over. Like, we just kept giving them the ball. I mean, even Darius Garland had a quote, which I'm about to pull up right now, is that we let our guard down. I think that we thought that the game was just over with. We was up like 12. That's when they started making shots, and just bad communication from some of us with like the switches and all their run-out screens and stuff like that. So we got to be better on the defensive end, just communicating and just keeping our man in front of us. And, I mean, he's not wrong about the communication on the defensive end. But at the same time, it's not just on the defense. We were turning it over way too much. We were giving them the opportunities all game. It's like we were burying the Hornets at certain points of the game, but then we were helping them out of the hole. We were giving them life when they should have been dead. It just didn't make sense. I mean, and the last play of not the last play, but a few seconds left, because we got the ball back with half a second left when Don took that shot. With like 3.8 or 2.8 seconds left, they got that nice screen for Terry. But Okoro was there, and he didn't jump. I lost my mind over that. I couldn't believe it. Like, I looked at the advanced stats. Okoro, like when the Hornets players against Okoro were 5 for 7. They shot 71.4%. Now, I am one of the Cavs fans who hasn't been hating on Okoro, who's been patient with him. But when I see that, it's just infuriating, because you think of like all those memes you see Cavs fans make, like, what does he even do? And he's supposed to be the guy who at least plays defense. Like, play defense. Fine, you're not the best three-point shooter. You're a good finisher. But teams don't take you seriously offensively. Fine. Bring the energy and effort defensively. There's no reason Okoro shouldn't have jumped on Terry's last shot. I don't care if he's scared of a foul. I don't. Because it's not like that 3 won them the game. The 3 tied it. Fine, foul him. Make him miss. And send him to the line where there's way more pressure. It's 3 shots. Yes, his free throw percentage is higher than his three-point percentage. I've heard Stan and Jeff say this a million times. Oh, you just turned a 40% shooter into an 80% shooter. Yes, I get that. Fine. If he makes all 3, whatever. But jump, do something. Okay, whatever. I have to move past this. Terry made the shot. Okoro played terrible defense. We're in overtime. All right. Now the first overtime was rough. There were some great plays and there were some bad plays, but let's start with a good one. Lamar Stevens got blocked by Mason Plumlee, made a great second effort to get the ball, and put it back up to get Mason Plumlee to foul out, which was fantastic. Fantastic. I was really happy with that play because I felt like once we got Mason off the floor, it was going to be a Jarrett and Evan frenzy inside where they were just going to be eating him alive. We didn't do that, which was infuriating. And the Hornets got their first lead in the first overtime since it was 7-6 in the game when they went up 108 to 107. Our perimeter defense was not there. I wrote in my notes, we don't deserve to win because too many weak contests. I also wrote, feed Jared Allen, damn it, because once they took Mason out the game, like, what are they going to do? Like, how are they going to... I just... Like, Jarrett is not a guy they were able to handle with their starting center in. And then Kai Jones has to come in, who's a young guy. And Jarrett could have bullied him, and we could have just won in the first overtime, in my opinion. But that didn't happen. And so I have it written twice here. Thank God for DG. The first one was when he tied the game. We were down 3 after, was it an Oubre layup? I'm not sure. We were down 3. Darius Garland hit a 3. So I wrote, thank God for DG. My next note is cover Scary Terry. This was 22 and a half seconds left in the first overtime. I thought we lost. So what happened was, this was what DG was talking about with the miscommunication defensively. I believe Ev was on Terry and Don was on, I don't remember if it was Oubre or Maladon or someone else, but whoever it was, Ev switched. And at first, Don switched to Terry, too. So, like, you can blame either one. I'd probably blame Don more than Ev because for some reason, he switched on to Terry, but then I guess he realized his mistake, and he ran back to Oubre, which left Terry alone, and you can't do that. That man was killing us on threes. He literally hit the 3 to send it to overtime, then you leave him alone. In that moment, I thought it was over, honestly. Especially after that, when Don took the 3 to try and tie the game, and he missed. Thank God Evan Mobley got that rebound. And then I'm going to read a quote from him talking about that play where he hit DG, and DG hit the 3, which sent it into the second overtime. He said, I got the rebound. I could have shot it, but I knew we needed a 3. So I saw Darius calling for it too. So hit him, and he knocked down the shot, which, I mean, that was a huge play. The fact that he was able to get that board inside, and who knows if that happens if Lamar doesn't make that second effort earlier in the first overtime to get Mason Plumlee to foul out. Maybe Mason grabs that, and we just lose, which, in my opinion, we deserve to lose. We got very lucky in this game. JB agrees with me. I'll bring up that quote later because we're still going through the game. So we'll go through the game. Something they showed at the beginning of the second overtime was a stat, was points off turnovers. The Hornets had 35, and we had 10, which was just, I mean, it makes you sick to your stomach just to think about that. Like, we have a superstar backcourt. They're missing their all-star LaMelo Ball. And not only were they turning the ball over less than us, but they were taking, like, they were making us pay every time we messed up. Which, I mean, give credit to them for capitalizing on our mistakes and finding their way back into the game. Obviously, they did a great job. They showed a lot of heart, a lot of toughness last night. And I think that the Hornets deserve to win this game. But, I mean, you also have to give credit to the Cavs because that second overtime was fantastic. That second overtime was fantastic. You can't put it any other way. I mean, you know what? Let me put it this way for you, all right? Let's go over every single bucket that the Hornets scored in the second overtime, all right? I'm going to list every single one. All right, ready? Kelly Oubre stole a pass, went on the fast break, and finished with a layup on a Donovan Mitchell turnover. Oh, that's it? Oh, they only scored 2 points? Oh, okay. Yeah, that's pretty great, huh? They scored the first 2 points of the second overtime, and then the Cavs scored the next 12 and won the game by 10, which was great. DG showed why, I've said this before, why I think he's going to take the mantle as the best point guard in the league one day. He had 10 points. He was 4 for 7 in the 2 overtime periods, and the rest of the team had 10 points, so it was 4 for 8. Now, this is not exact because I got this stat when there was more than half of the time left in the second overtime, and there was a total of 27 Cavs points in both overtimes. So this is when we had 5 points in the second overtime, but still, it's very good to see him take over in situations like that. It's just the way we finished was fantastic, but the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde stuff has to stop. It really does. That fat cat attitude was popping up in game, and what JB had to say about what happened at the end of the game during that last 44 and a half seconds where we choked a 10-point lead, which is unbelievable. We made mistakes. It's that simple, We allowed them to get to their spots. We made, communication errors where, we have switched things that we weren't supposed to switch and weren't on the same page. So we got away with one tonight. And, he's absolutely right. The way that fourth quarter ended was terrible, and it showed how much this team needs to learn before the going gets tough. Once the playoffs come, you can't get away with this sort of stuff, and I know that kind of means nothing now in the grand scheme of things because we are 9-6. We are 15 games into the season. There is a long way to go. There's still 67 games left, so hopefully they'll get it fixed. But what JB had to say about the game as a whole is wins and losses to me are a product of how we play the game, and that's the focus for us. There's going to be nights where you win some, that you probably shouldn't. There's going to be nights where you lose some you probably shouldn't. But do you consistently play to your style right and play to your standard? And, we don't. That's the thing. That's the thing I thought of when I heard JB say this, was that we don't. The first 9 games of the season was a great example of what Cavaliers basketball is. 48 minutes, foot on the pedal, don't stop, the intensity defensively, the forcing your will offensively. It hasn't been there. It's like it's been in spurts. It's like they don't have the juice to do it for all 48 minutes, which, that's not true. They're still figuring things out. But, they can be a lot better than they have been. But the overtime periods showed what this team has. Because even though I kind of shit on them for how they did in the first overtime, every time they got hit with a punch, they had a response. Even I said I thought we were going to lose at certain points of that first overtime, but they didn't. And they fought back, and they found a way. Even though it shouldn't have been that hard, sometimes it happens that way, and they found a way. So this is what JB had to say about the overtimes. I just thought that there was a will and determination, and sometimes it comes to this, right? Sometimes you just have to get it done, and it's gonna be ugly, but you can learn from it. Now it's off your back, and you can just keep pushing forward, which absolutely true. The will and determination that this team had to come back. That massive offensive rebound by Evan to pass out to DG for the 3. Evan's defensive possession on Terry at the end of the first overtime. This team did grind it out They did fight for this game. And, I mean, that was great to see. I just wish we could have seen it for 48 minutes. I wish, because we could have put them in the dirt in the second quarter, and it wouldn't have had to come to this. But I think that this was a great learning experience on what happens when you don't play consistently for 48 minutes. I think this is a great learning experience for this team, and for it to come in a win is even better because they needed that confidence boost. You know, it's been a while. It's been 5 games. And here's what Ev had to say about overtime or on finishing. It didn't really go as we wanted at the end of regulation, but we had to come together as a team and really still fight because we still have 5 more minutes and then another 5 more minutes to play. So, yeah, we were just sticking together. Something else I loved was they asked Ev how he felt about covering Scary Terry at the end of the game, and he said, "I'm real comfortable, honestly." And then everyone said something about this. So, where is it? I believe it is somewhere here. Gosh, look at me with my notes. So, no, JB didn't say anything about that. Actually, JB did say he trusts Ev and JA to cover players on the perimeter, but I guess I didn't write it down. But here's what DG had to say. "I feel comfortable with Evan guarding anybody. Literally, Evan moves his feet really well, and he keeps distance because he's so long. And, I mean, I think Evan can guard anybody in this league if he puts his mind to it," which is just, you know, it's cool to hear, you know. This team definitely trusts Evan. I agree with them. Evan is our best perimeter defender by far. I mean, I would probably go Evan 1, 2 LeVert, 3. I'd say Okoro, but after the way he played last night, I'm going to give Lamar Stevens the nod over him. And then I'm going to give Dean Wade the nod over him too. And then Okoro can be like 5th or 6th or whatever number that was. I wasn't keeping track. But, yeah. Something cool was that in the last 2, well, I don't know how cool it is, but cool stat. The last 2 seasons, when Jared Allen plays, the Cavs win 63% of their games, and we're 9-19 without him. So definitely great to have him back for that game. He played great. He leads by example. He doesn't need to say much to lead. It's more his energy on the floor and the way he plays, you know? He's a soft-spoken guy. He doesn't need to get in the huddle and say some rah-rah speech to get everyone going. He just does his thing, and people follow. What JB had to say on him was he's huge. There's an energy he has that's infectious. And you can just see it on the court. I mean, you know, when he plays versus when he doesn't, the way this team plays, you can just see it in the team that he's either the heart or the engine for this team. He gets them going just by leading by example because he does all the gritty things, you know. And when you have an all-star as good and as physical and dominant inside as Jared Allen doing all those gritty things for your team, it helps out a lot. And what Ev had to say was, yeah, for sure. When he's in there, he usually protects the rim, and I just help him. So I have a lot more freelance ability to really move around and help where I see fit. And I feel like I play that role really well, which was, you know, it's good for our defense to have Jarrett. It's really good because, I mean, even there you hear him say that he feels more comfortable freelancing than he does being stuck in the paint just defending the rim. And when you have the ability to play defense the way he does, it kind of does you a disservice to just be planted in the paint. And I'm not saying Jarrett can't cover on the perimeter, but he can't do it like Ev does. He doesn't move his feet as well on the perimeter as Ev does. He gets the job done, but he looks like a more like a clumsy deer out there than you know, I don't know, a ballerina, I guess, with the footwork. But you know, nothing against JA. He gets the job done on the perimeter every time, but he's definitely more suited for the paint, and Ev more suited to be everywhere. But what DG had to say about JA being back was, I should have been looking for this while I was talking that whole time, but I like to listen to myself talk. But let's see. No, actually, oh, here it is. Here it is. I mean, he's so impactful on both ends of the floor. He was getting so many blocks, and he's setting hard screens on the offensive end, dunking on people, catching lobs, just being the guy that he is. He made some clutch free throws down the stretch. So I mean, it was good having him back out there. And I mean, you can't say it any better. He does what needs to be done, and I mean. When he's dunking on people, like, you could see the energy that gives our team. So, I mean, it's really important to have him out there. But he wasn't the big man that shined the most last night. The guy who shined the most last night was Evan Mobley, who he himself believes he had his best game of the season so far last night. And what DG had to say, DG actually had a lot to say about Evan. So I'm going to just be moving from quote to quote because all of his quotes about Evan in the post game were really awesome, and I really like them. So you can listen to them while I read them, I guess. We always tell Evan, like, he's him. So I want him to start acting like it. I want him to just keep that same fire, keep that same energy, and that's what we need from him. And I already told you what he said about Ev guarding Terry, how he's comfortable with him guarding anyone. This is something about J.A. and Ev. Lobs from a 5-man to a 4-man is kind of crazy, and it's super cool to see a lot of teams don't really do that, which is true. It's electric. I wrote it in my notes. Jarrett to Ev lobs and Ev to Jarrett lobs are electric to see. Now, this was probably my favorite quote from the post-game pressers from last night. This is DG talking about Ev again. I want him to take more shots. That's me personally. I mean, his one-on-one game is really, really good for his size. And I mean, he can get to any shot that he wants to. So, I mean, 14 is a good number, but I think he should take a lot more, in my opinion. I want him to be more aggressive. I want him to literally ask for the ball. Like, tell me to give him the ball. Like, I want some of that out of Evan. And I mean, he's going to get there. He's building his confidence every day, so he's going to get there one day. And something else he said, I always tell Evan, like, you're him. I mean, he's not wrong. Evan is Himothy, which I don't know if you know what that means, but, like, being him is, like, I mean, when you call somebody him, it's not something to be taken lightly. It's a pretty big compliment, in my opinion. And something else DG said in that post-game presser was that this is Ev's team. He's a unicorn. He was giving him all sorts of love. And, I mean, nothing he said was wrong. It's not like he was just trying to gas him up. It's not like he was just trying to get his confidence up and say a bunch of stuff that's not true. Everything he said in that post-game presser about Evan Mobley was completely true. I mean, that guy he's our X factor because we know what Don brings to the table. We know what DG brings to the table. We know what Jarrett Allen brings to the table. It's the stuff Evan does that's really going to take us over the top in terms of having the chance to win the East. Whether it's tackling on the challenge of taking on a guy like Giannis or being able to freelance on defense against a team that has Joel Embiid, James Harden, and Tyrese Maxey. I mean, I think he's a guy that's going to be super important to how far this team goes down the line. And, I mean, he had some things to say too. So he agrees with me. He said, I feel like we could have won a little earlier, but I mean, a win is a win. We fought it out and, we dug down, dug deep, and got the win. So that's what really matters. I mean, that's the one thing that it was really frustrating to watch because, I mean, when you have a team like the Hornets missing their best player and when the rest of the players on that team, no offense to them, but the rest of the players on that team are pretty much role players. Some of them, top tier role players, other just regular role players, but still no stars on the floor. And the first quarter goes the way it did. I mean, I thought it was over and done with. I really did. And as a fan, even when things aren't going well, you kind of trick yourself into thinking, nah, we won this game. Like, that's probably why I went on that little rant about Coro not jumping on that Terry shot, because I was really angry when Terry hit that shot and sent it to OT. Now, I'm not one who hates OT basketball. I love OT basketball. The pressure's up. The gameplay is usually up. I mean, you only have 5 minutes to win a game, So OT basketball is always fun, but the way it happened was very frustrating. So let's get into some fun stuff. I think our big four is very special. I really do. I mean, Jarrett is like 24, 25. Donovan Mitchell's 26. DG's 22, 23. Ev is 21. So I put together this little stat sheet for myself here. Has the good and the bad. But I did a little comparison. The big four versus the rest of the guys who played. And we had 9 players who played. So we're talking about a 4v5 in terms of stats, which is kind of unfair because those 4 guys are who they are. And the other 5 who played are not that they're not good. It's just that they're not to the caliber of those 4 guys. So, I mean, whatever. Let's just get to it. So the big four had 116 points. The rest of the team had 16. The big four had 35 rebounds. The rest of the team had 16. The big four had 19 assists. The rest of the team had 6. The big four had 8 blocks, including one from Darius Garland. Donovan Mitchell didn't have any. The rest had 1, which was just Lamar Stevens. The big four had 7 steals, 5 of which were DG. I believe 1 Ev and 1 Don. The rest had 0. Now, here's the bad part. The big four had 17 turnovers, and the rest had 2, which is, it's both good and bad because I believe Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland had 14 of those 17 turnovers. And when you see that the rest of the team only had 2 turnovers and Evan Jarrett had 3, those numbers are good. And while Don and DG's turnover numbers were terrible, that's something that in the long term shouldn't be a problem. In the short term, yes, this is a problem. We can't be turning over the ball recklessly. And even DG said it about turnovers, is that that we can live with aggressive turnovers, but that's not the type of turnovers they were getting. And that they were getting turnovers where they were just throwing the ball to the other team. And, I mean, that's the thing. It's like if DG throws a lob to Evan and somebody happens to jump up and make a great play and swat it, I'm not going to be crying all day because DG turned it over. But if somebody is not open, like, here's an example. I mean, this might not be the best example, but at the end of the game, before Terry got his shot, when we turned it over the last time, I'm talking about regulation right now, so the end of the fourth quarter, Evan was doing the inbounds, and DG got open. Now, he didn't see him. For whatever reason, he didn't see him. I saw him. Ev didn't see him. He found Jarrett, who at the time was wide open, but if you look at the screen, when he threw it to him, it was very easy for 4 Hornets to just converge on him and get that ball out. Now, was that a bad play by Ev? No. Man has to get the ball in. It's the end of the game. We can't have a turnover because of a 5-second. Is that on Jarrett? Kind of. He probably should have found somebody and dished it out, but there were only like 5 seconds left when the ball was inbounded, so he probably wasn't ready for the swarm that came his way. But it's just putting the ball in a bad position, which you can't do. You can't do if you want to win in the NBA. I mean, it's just the way it goes when you do that. I mean, all these guys are in the NBA for a reason. And you could say, I could sit here and say all day, oh, LaMelo didn't play. We should have blown them out. LaMelo didn't play. We should have blown them out. I could run in circles about, oh, Terry Rozier's not an actual point guard. He's a scoring guard. And he turned it over less than DG and Don when he had to become a floor general. I can say all these things, but those guys are in the NBA for a reason. Scary Terry and Kelly Oubre can score with anyone when they're hot. And that team played with a lot of heart last night, and they brought it for 48 minutes. They never gave up. And, I mean, you could be upset because they're a worse team than us. But, I mean, they played better than us. Just fundamentally. I mean, in certain, like, we had our spurts, but that's the problem. They're just spurts. And I know I said this already about the spurts, but it's really bugging me because even when you go back to that Bucks game, I'm pretty sure if you put the scores together from the first, second, and fourth quarter, we either won those or we lost by like a few points. And then you look at that third quarter and we lost by 20. And it was another one of those quarters. And if we play the way we played against the Hornets, those quarters will continue to happen. I mean, that's the bottom line. At the end of the day, the Cavs need to start playing for 48 minutes again. And, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know the Heat are shorthanded, but we can't do against them what we did against the Hornets. They're not like the Hornets. And I mean no disrespect when I say that, because even if Jimmy's not playing, they have a guy in Kyle Lowry who's been an all-star, who's been to the finals, who's won a championship. They have a guy in Bam Adebayo who's currently an all-star caliber player. And so even if Jimmy doesn't play, even if they're shorthanded again. Oh, yeah, also Hero. I know he's called Hero. That's his name. But I don't like calling him Hero because he's not a hero. I mean, what else can you say? All you can hope for now as a Cavs fan is that this team learned, because, I mean, yes, it's going to take some time. Yes, Lamar Stevens started, and it's hard to get chemistry with a guy who doesn't really start right off the bat. And yes, we're missing key players or key rotation players in Dean Wade and Ricky Rubio. And hopefully Dylan Windler gets a chance to show what he can do, because, I mean, that guy's been injured constantly, and I always think back to him in the summer league they did, you know how they do that little Cali summer league, and he went off there. I remember watching him. He was making these crazy shots. So I'd love to see Dylan Windler finally get healthy so we can see what he can do on the court. And another guy who's out is Mamadi Diakite, who, I mean, as most of you probably know right now, he's on a two-way. He showed a lot of potential in the preseason. He's a young guy. I mean, hopefully when we get Ricky back, that will get things ironed out, because I feel like Ricky is a guy who, when he speaks, everyone on that team listens, you know? He's the guy who mentored DG and Don when they were younger, and, I mean, not much younger for DG. It was just last season, but still, I think Ricky will be not only a calming presence, but I think he will he'll make sure that the team keeps the pedal to the floor. Because if you look at how he was playing last year, he was the I don't. It's hard to say what he was. Maybe the brain of the team, maybe the heart of the team, but he gave the team something that was irreplaceable when he was on the court. And even when he's off of it, just his presence is great. So just to have him back in the jersey again will be huge. And I know I'm kind of just going off right now with random thoughts, but I mean, it's just been tough. I mean, to be 9-6 now after starting 8-1. I think the world of this team, and I believe in JB. I just need to see this team get it together again, because they have every ability to. They have the players, they have the pieces, and I mean, okay, well, my camera died, and I'm just rambling right now, so I think I'm just going to end it. So thank you for watching. If you watched, keep scrapping like a bunch of junkyard dogs.